We ready?
Hey guys, welcome in. Hey, we're live. Welcome in. It's Brad with College SportsCast, and we are presented by the Boys.
Or Landrum, you're going to have to pardon him. He cannot tell that the video is over right now. So it's going to be real fun watching him just be frozen. Yeah, boy. Nope. 3, 2, 1, and Brad.
All right,
There
I
you
think
go.
I'm back. All right, guys. It's Brad with College SportsCast, and we have a special show for you tonight. Welcome to College SportsCast. And tonight we have Landrum Roberts from JOX 94.5 with us. Hey, Landrum, how are you?
Appreciate the introduction. It depends on how you, I guess, define special. But yes, tonight should be special. Indeed.
Tonight should be special, huh? Well, you're special to us, so.
And I guess it's how you define special. But yeah, I appreciate it. Anytime that I get an opportunity to talk to other human beings, I'm all about it.
Yep. Well, we appreciate you being on with us. Like I said, Landrum's from JOX 94.5 FM in Birmingham. He does the Morning JOX show and three-man front on the radio. And he's also a UAB sideline reporter for football and a bunch of other stuff as well. So he's a busy man.
Being busy is we all know, no matter what you do, is usually not good unless you're independently wealthy, which I will never. Hats and luckily we have plenty to talk about here in the South with our passion for sports and everything else that goes on now in real time, 365 days out of the year. So yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and this is fun. This is fun times.
Yes.
Yeah. So Landrum, like I said, is a radio guy. I think he's at home or an office and basement, and he's got some people around. So he's on audio this tonight. So I just wanted to say that kind of up front. So he's a radio guy. So, you know.
We're only here for that voice. For the voice.
when I do TV, they keep the stand up shot to a minimum. It's usually just a flash where nobody can really tell, and then it's all just voiceover after that. So
you got the stand-in for you.
That's how I roll. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we have the stand-in for the halftime shot. You can't tell because they don't zoom in too close.
But when you're on TV, it's beach volleyball, and the pictures, the better looking pictures are elsewhere.
You know, it's just the scenery. Who doesn't love the Alabama Gulf Coast? Who doesn't love
absolutely
white sandy beaches?
Yeah,
and the picturesque sunsets that we get and sunrises for that matter. And yeah, it's going to be fun. And by the way, that's not too far away. I
was about to say
at the calendar, and yeah, so coming up May the 2nd.
Oh.
Bigger and bigger.
Is it still in Gulf Shores
or Wednesday? We're going to be in Gulf Shores this year, and I think we have double checking with my wife. I think we have Gulf Shores this year and next year, and then we head out to California for 2 years And we'll be out there. But long story without getting into it. But I believe that Gulf Shores, think of it SEC basketball tournament wise. You have the one-off year, it's in Tampa, but most of the time it's in Nashville. Just think of it that way. So,
Gotcha.
California is going to get their taste of it.
Right.
Sweet.
It's been in Gulf Shores for several years. I lived from end of 15 through 2020, and it was there, I think, every year when I was there. So what we're talking about, Egypt beach volleyball tournament is held in Gulf Shores.
Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, they do such an outstanding job. And, from whether it was a coach at Pepperdine, USC, UCLA, Hawaii.
Right. Yeah, I've been to about 3 of them, I think.
With sand volleyball, then it was beach, and then it was sand again because they wanted to grow the game. But every college campus wasn't next to a beach, and then when it finally became recognized, it's now a beach because they recognize, look, it's beach volleyball. Let's call it what it is. And
Right.
So Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, they do a wonderful job putting it on. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah, and
Right on.
It doesn't stink.
No, it does not. Yeah, it's wonderful, and they do a great job of putting it on. It's a well-run tournament on a nice white sandy beach, just like you were talking about. Can't beat it.
Nope. Well, anyway, so I've got something I got to get off my chest. I just last night played kickball, and I got spiked playing kickball last night in a like one of those rec leagues that just you don't get ultra competitive. You're there for the beer drinking, and I got spiked. What are your thoughts on that ultra uber competitive person that goes into one of these rec leagues and just acts like they are the all-star player on the teams? They go out there and just absolutely feel like they're the best in show.
If you know that guy, or I guess in some cases gal, is out there on your team, then again, you also have to be on your toes and keep the head on a swivel. If the weekend warrior ran into this, I'll never forget. It was probably I'd been out of college for a few years, and I went up with some guys I worked with, and it was a pickup. It was like a church league, but not really sanctioned. You didn't have referees. I was probably 24, 25, and organized basketball pickup games, whatever. And there was a guy in there who thought he was JJ Redick, and in Jersey, this is dude that's serious about it. I mean, he probably got taped before he came out there.
Oh my god!
And he wanted to get really, really physical with, and I obliged, but then he didn't like it.
Right.
This sweet little church gym, and this is how it's going to go down. I managed to stay out of trouble for the most part when I was in college, and I'm going to get arrested getting in a fight in a church gym at the age of 25. But cooler heads prevailed, and it didn't happen. But I know exactly. So I guess to answer your question while telling a story and sharing a personal experience, I would say that I guess it just depends. If somebody spiked me in a
kickball, he slid into third base and got my ankles with his soccer cleats.
been consuming alcohol or beer?
I wasn't paying much attention, but yeah, probably.
Younger me, I would say that probably would not end well.
I debated whether to step on him or throw the ball right down at him when I caught it. Like I almost
on weeknights. You get up at 3:30, 4 in the morning and host a morning show. Then some of those kick alcohol is pretty much out the door at that point, which is not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, I still get up at 3
First of all,
in the morning.
Is bloody.
First of all, bringing your soccer cleats to go play some kickball at some kind of rec place or something. I mean, he means business.
I actually debated bringing soccer cleats out just because I knew we were going to be in the outfield, and if it had any dew on the ground, I'd be sliding all over the place. And so, for the most part, the soccer cleats don't bother me. It's the fact that he slid into third base, and then he slid with spikes high, and that's what bothered me. That's the part that really chatted.
So what did you do? You're asking questions.
No. He stayed down.
He stayed down. So what did you do?
I stepped on his ankle. Once he got me, I stepped on him, but didn't pay much and acted like I wasn't doing anything. And then after he eventually, like the next inning or whatever, because they had one of their players was being like a third base coach, and my wife could see that I was kind of pissed off, and she just looks at me, she's like, "Why are you mad? Aren't you supposed to be having fun?" I go, "Jackass over there spiked me last inning." But I said it loud enough so that this third base coach could hear me. He just dropped his head and was like, "Yeah, he did." The rest of their team was fine. Everybody else in that for the game was fine. It was just that one incident. One incident just kind of, chapped me for the rest of the evening. I didn't really like the idea that guy came in spikes high. First that he slid, and then he went spikes high, and that was just.
You could look at it from the standpoint, and look, I'm an old umpire. I umpired park ball in some high school and some JUCO. I mean, the fact that he slid, there is something to be thankful for there, because he could have come in full form tackle, and then you guys are.
Then you're going at it.
The situation has escalated. Yeah.
He was clearly going to beat. He was clearly
That's when
going
you need to get an attorney.
Yeah, he was clearly going to beat the throw. Like, he didn't have to slide. He didn't even have to come in full on. He could have held up and just kind of coasted in. And instead, he slid, and he slid spikes high. And that, again, but enough on that. Let's actually get into some college sports.
Yeah. Let's get into some spring football stuff. How about let's get into some spring football stuff?
Auburn had a game last weekend. So what did you – I mean, I know y'all been talking about this game all week on your shows. But what has been kind of the overall reaction to Auburn's game in the rain with I don't know, it didn't really seem like a ton of fanfare, but what say you on all of Auburn football and the spring game that they just had?
Else, I wanted to see, what it looked like formationally. I kind of had a pretty good idea. It's not like Hugh Freeze is off the map. Got to see him up close and personal this past year up in Lynchburg when UAB traveled to play Liberty.
Right.
At Ole Miss. But formationally, what it looked like, just to see it with my own eyes. Obviously, the quarterback position, offensive line, big point of emphasis. And starting up front, I did think, and I don't claim to be an offensive line expert, but I think I've seen, it's fair to say I've seen enough bad offensive line play when I think now I can recognize bad offensive line play if I'm looking at it. And I didn't see that. I did see guys that actually looked the part. I thought Auburn overall, even though maybe it was hard to tell in the practice jerseys and soaking wet conditions, I thought they looked more the part as far as to get off the bus and physically how they looked, and having close to 85 scholarship guys that look like they play, and look like they play the Power Five, and by golly, a lot of them look like they can play in the SEC. You didn't always see that under Brian Harsin. I thought offensive line looked pretty good. I was encouraged by the running backs, the number of running backs they're going to use in that system. You only got to see Jarquez Hunter in limited action. They know what he can do, but then seeing a guy like Damari Alston, who we got to see last year, who's a different kind of back. The Batty, Brian Batty from South Florida, he's a different kind of guy. Maybe they use him a little bit like Auburn used Ontario McCaleb back when Gus Malzahn was there. And then you had the big guy, Sean Jackson, who was a walk-on from Hewitt-Trussville, just earned a scholarship last year, who Pat Smith, who I do three-man front with on JOX, actually coached him in Little League and was telling me about him before he even earned the scholarship. And he's all of 240 pounds. The running game, I think that was a good sign. And then you add in Robbie Ashford, quarterback, and what he can do with his legs. But I think Hugh Freeze put it best. Obviously, Robbie Ashford, where he could throw the ball early in the season with the seam. He seems to like the seam pass. We saw the throw against Alabama. He had in the Iron Bowl. But Hugh Freeze says, can he make those throws? There's going to be a time when the defense is going to stop the run. Can he make those throws in pressure situations and have consistency and accuracy? And then he also talked about how he leads the team, and demonstratively, are you wearing your feelings on the sideline? So how many times last year, if you guys were watching an Auburn game and something didn't go well, and maybe it fell on Robbie Ashford, he was off by himself. He wasn't with his teammates, and he was wearing it. He was, emotional, and I don't want to say pity party, but,
right. Yeah.
By himself, and you're isolating.
I was definitely going to ask you about the quarterback.
The guy that they're looking to.
Yeah, I was definitely going to ask you about the quarterback position. I don't think that Robbie Ashford and Hugh Freeze are exact. I think he would prefer to have a more pocket passer guy.
And Hugh Freeze, he can use both. I think he would like a guy that in a lot of systems could play in a pocket system for, just about anyone, but also with the ability, if he has to be multiple, to be able to elude, pressure, not be a statue back there. And I don't know if any college football
right. Yeah, I agree with that.
On the offensive side of the ball, wants a statue, but I think the added, the value in having a guy like Robbie Ashford is there's only so many plays in the game, and he eliminates so many of those negative plays that can happen. And whether it's running 15 to 30 yards east and west, getting back to the line of scrimmage, that's still huge in the grand scheme of things when you start talking about negative yardage and how it equates and how it can obviously its outcome. So, but let's not kid ourselves. Hugh Freeze is still looking. What name's going to emerge in the transfer portal? Wide receiver is an issue at Auburn. Hugh Freeze has been nice and very political about it, but they're going to have they want to run 8 wide receivers and guys they can count on. And I was talking to a former Auburn wide receiver that played down there, and he said he doesn't know if there's 3 guys that you can count on.
That's what I was. Do they have 3? That was going to be my question.
Well, I mean, you also got to get one guy that was, I guess, in Harson's doghouse. I don't know, King. But I think he was was he more tight end, or was he slot receiver?
Is that or Landon King you're talking about?
Yeah,
Landon King.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Landon King, who, I mean, he can play now. As far as speed, he's got the body style, but he's another option that you could have, in the red zone or a guy in a one-on-one. You just go up and grab that 50-50 ball.
Right.
The Rivaldo Fairweather guy they brought in from FIU, you weren't able to see him because of the conditions, but that dude can absolutely play. I think he will be huge as an asset and how they utilize the tight end in that offense and how Philip Montgomery's going to use him. But you got to have other guys. You've got from Hewitt Trussville. You got Nick Mardner, the transfer from Cincinnati via Hawaii, who looks good, but he's had problems apparently catching the football in practice. Guys, but do they have that guy that can take off the top off the defense right now? And I'd say no. That guy's not down there. So We'll see.
Right.
So what have you been hearing about Alabama and their spring ball right now?
Again, quarterback. It's who's going to be the quarterback. It's never a question of talent down there.
They got all different coaches besides Saban.
Yeah. Eli Holstein coming in, but then Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe competing. I'm hearing that Ty Simpson, he's that guy that is that accurate quarterback. But again, Jalen Milroe, he offers so much athletically what he can do, and we've seen a little bit of it. And I don't think that we can absolutely add against Texas A&M and Arkansas and say this is what you're going to get, and he can't get better, and he can't protect the football and learn ball security. No, I think he can. It's just, again, can they trust him in a situation where Alabama's going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to have to make one of those throws more than they do a Ty Simpson? The biggest question I have is with one of those guys, a five-star quarterback from the state of Tennessee, and Ty Simpson, whose dad is the head coach of Tennessee Martin and a dang good one. I find it hard to believe that he's going to be willing to sit through another year with NIL being what it is, the transfer portal being what it is.
Portal,
He's a highly coveted quarterback. He was number 2 nationally coming out of high school at his position. That you're not going to get, one of those schools that has not been shy about throwing money. You want to throw Miami out there, whatever, with NIL deals attached. It's going to be hard for a guy like him to say no. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but now you have to look at it and be realistic that
Tennessee might be in that same situation.
That's true.
Possibly.
That's why this portal period in the spring and being where it is, come up this weekend, and I think there's 20-something hundred active names in the portal right now. You could 4, 5, maybe in some cases 6, 7 guys from every single
team.
That's a crazy number when you're talking about 131 teams.
Oh yeah. Right. But so Tennessee's replacing. The draft is coming up, and there's a lot of Tennessee players that's being projected in the first, second round. They're replacing a lot of talent. So do you expect them to take a slight step back at all this coming year?
That they won't just – and I did see them. Look, I saw him play against Clemson. I thought Joe Milton, he impressed me totally. Looked like a different quarterback than the first time I saw him when he was lining up against Bowling Green. And game that he ever played in as a Tennessee Vol, and in the third row with one of those heaters he threw. Different, but then you take out Jalen Hyatt, who had the breakout game against Alabama. You throw out Tillman on the outside not being there. It's just with the kind of playmakers that they had, the speed and the skill. Hendon Hooker, who I think is absolutely what to do with his career after transferring from Virginia Tech in 2 years at Tennessee and then getting shortened with the injury. If I'm a scout, if I'm taking him higher than Will Levis. I'm certainly taking him higher than Anthony Richardson. He's going to be really, really high up on my quarterback board. So, again, to answer your question, I have to think they take a slight step back, but I think that Josh Heupel and what he does, he's got it figured out and how to keep them relevant. This is going to be the year that they overtake Georgia. I don't.
Wide receivers that they're losing is more concerning to me than the quarterback. I think Milton or the 5-star kid that's coming in Heupel will have them ready. I just think the wide receivers is more concerning than anything. I mean, they had stellar, DC wide receivers, all over, to be honest. I mean, then and Hyatt were some of the best.
Oh, yeah.
Way. And Alabama fans, I know they'll agree, but the elite talent they've had on the outside, and last year they just didn't have that electric guy, whether it was a Jamison Williams that could take a 10-yard slant and turn it into an 80-yard touchdown. You name the player, insert name, insert year. And you imagine Bryce Young having a Hyatt last year or having some of the weapons? Yeah, Tennessee was blessed
Right.
with a lot of receiving talent. And it's not like they don't have other guys, but just ask Georgia, who, hadn't had that guy in a while. They were looking for that electric guy on the outside. They got it in a different way in Brock Bowers, but
Right.
And so they could easily win 10 games. I think you'd be that they could, which was remarkable.
Yeah. So looking into the chat that we've got here, we got John Hammonds that has asked a question. Who do you think your dark horse for next year in college football will be?
I guess like a Tennessee or a TCU this past year.
Correct. Yeah, like somebody that wasn't
like
maybe not necessarily starts in the top 10 or starts in the top 25 or kind of bottom of the top 25, outside the top 25, that could potentially make a run at it.
Without having the rankings in front of me, the Texas A&M is not going to improve on what was just 7. Be an interesting dynamic with Bobby Petrino. And want to hire Bobby Petrino, and you talk about putting two personalities that to me are oil and water.
Did they follow each other back?
Interesting.
Were they back to back at Auburn? Back to back OCs, or was there time in between?
I think time in between. There was time in between.
Okay.
It is an interesting combination, that's for sure, with Fisher and Bobby Petrino. I have to agree with that.
And Jimbo knew the writing was on the wall. He was essentially told, you're going to have to change what you're doing on offense. And he had no argument to fall back on. His fault, but this seems like such a seeing this coming. I guess if I went maybe looking there at maybe possibly another team to do what TC. I say a Kansas. I mean, Kansas kind of came out of nowhere last year. I could see Clemson having a really good year, being Clemson, being talked about like Clemson has been. Not necessarily last year, where they kind of lost their swagger a little bit the last 2 seasons. I can see them returning to maybe close to that level.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Clemson.
Right. I think that Auburn.
Yeah.
See, as far as what they're going to, I think their win-loss total by Vegas will probably, if I'm guessing, be set at 6.5. I think that Auburn can win 8 games. But you know what? I said that I thought they could last year as well. So.
But there were probably, I don't know, a few of those games that were definitely coaching issues and just whether it was philosophy or it was, end of game situations where maybe a different coach and you do win 8 games down at Auburn.
Also look at that Missouri game and go, okay, well, you were gifted one there. So
gifted. Yes, very much.
Absolutely.
If I was going to go out to the Pac-12, and if I'm looking out there at maybe one of those surprise teams, I would keep my eye on Kenny Dillingham, just based on the number of transfers that those guys have brought in and through the portal. This is going to be the first time we've seen him as a head coach for teams with the style of offense he's going to run. He's got a tough schedule, and I think the Pac-12 overall is going to be better this year. But if I'm going to go true dark horse, I would say, a team like Arizona State, just kind of coming out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you look up and you go, wow, how are they doing that?
Yeah.
I think
how about that?
Washington with Penix back could be good out there.
Yeah, but I mean, that one's kind of not as much of a dark horse since they've been in the
that's not
the last like three years.
Technically a dark horse, I guess.
Yeah,
with the portal,
Arizona State would be a dark horse.
Teams,
Yeah,
with teams being able to reload, replace, and just change, basically their season outlook overnight. With you just look at USC, where they went. They got Lincoln Riley, and then you add a Blitnikoff winner. You add Caleb Williams. You add the one of the top running backs in the country, the transfers from Oregon at running back. Both sides of the ball, you're adding players, and automatically overnight, I've expected them to be good last year, but I don't know if anybody saw Lance Leipold doing what he did.
No, I don't think so.
State TCU, those were great stories. But then again, we saw what happened when they played teams from the SEC.
Correct. Yep,
they did
both of them
play with Michigan.
They did, but that's a different league. That's not the SEC.
Remembers, I think their last meeting that they had with an SEC.
I'm just saying,
and getting drug across the field by the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah,
basically being called by Kirby.
Yeah, that was an embarrassing showing for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like they were just drubbed in the national championship game.
Yep. Now, as far as as far as college basketball is concerned, I know we just had the national championship one a couple 2-3 weeks ago. You've got the portal. Just seems like it's just as populated as the as college football, and you've got several state more, maybe more, and well, it's also because there's 3 times the more amount of schools for D1, but there's several from the state, from the state of Alabama here with SEC ties with Auburn and Alabama players that are in the portal. What do you think of the state of college basketball with the portal, and then with our local teams, you and me, with Auburn and Alabama being how they're going to fare in the portal?
They've already, I think Auburn and UAB and Jaquan Walton, the kid out of Wichita State, as far as being academically ready to go. And starting with Auburn, I think Auburn, they have folks to replace, but I think going into last year, at the end of last season, Bruce Pearl, he loves his kids. He'll welcome some of these guys and leaving the program. You've got All-American at point guard. So Wendell Green Jr.'s out. You latest, I know, as of today, and again, he was still there on the roster, but Wes's dad going to coach at Ole Miss. Don't know if he's going to be there. Jalen Williams, don't know if he's going to be there. Janai Broome coming back. That's big. Trey Donaldson coming back. But adding a guy like Denver Jones out of the portal, a guy that averaged 20, he was really good. And he was outstanding. Scored 30 in the game that they beat UAB. I think he's exactly what Bruce Pearl's looking for. Speaking of Arizona State, Devin Cambridge, who played at Auburn, transferred out. He absolutely is a SportsCenter highlight when it comes to a runaway dunk. But but I saw he's entered the transfer portal, and Auburn is one of his 4 schools.
Yeah, he's visiting Auburn. I thought that was kind of funny.
I think this with the portal era, this would be the first documented case of a player entering the portal, leaving, going and playing in another school, and then entering the portal, coming back and playing for the school that he originally left.
Actually, Severe Wheeler might
Auburn.
be doing that right now as we speak as well. He left Georgia, went to Kentucky, and is in the portal. And I'm hearing that he's going to return his COVID year and play in Georgia.
There's a few Georgia guys that have chosen to go elsewhere.
Right.
Heading into the second season now, probably. But I think Auburn, they're trying to get another big man. I know that the kid, Russell Chiwa, 7 foot, 280-pounder out of South Florida. I know that he was on their radar. Don't know if he's made a decision, but I think they obviously adding more shooters. UAB, what they've done with Ortiz, another kid yesterday. I think Andy, he gets it. And with his ties that he has from just, being coaches around the Southeast, being a guy from Mississippi, coaching at Ole Miss, and his national basketball ties, Andy Kennedy's going to be able to find players. And he's got to replace 6 that are coming back.
Well, they're moving.
That are coming back.
They're moving into the AAC too, so.
Playing in the American, you got some really good teams there. I know that the American, I'm trying to remember, I think it was just 2 with Houston and Memphis. Houston going out. Memphis will be there, but you have other schools that have been pretty good basketball schools over the years. And then schools from, of course, Conference USA that are making the trip with them, like your Florida Atlantics, like your North Texases. So, Alabama, Mark Sears, I know that he's come back. I think he should. I think he's key. I think he was here. Games that he struggled, typically Alabama struggled. But Jaquan Walton, who I mentioned, and then there's some other guys that Nate Oates is targeting, but it will look much different, that's for sure. But I think that's what we need to expect, unless you're a Michigan State fan and
and they just keep them all.
They do, and
I know
they have that continuity, and it shows. And they come tournament time, and what does Michigan State do? They win, and they screw up your bracket. That's what they do.
Yeah, right. But they're one of the few teams in the country anymore that's still like that. Michigan State and Izzo is about it.
Yeah, I mean, we just had an example of San Diego State. That was a veteran team that hung together.
That's right.
And it speaks a lot about, the coaches and everything else. But, something to be said for those kids who maybe weren't that highly recruited on everybody, that just really enjoy playing together and enjoy who they're playing for. And in San Diego State's case, let's be honest. On getting to play college basketball, it doesn't seem too bad.
Yes, this is true. Absolutely. So Josh Hart's on with us, and he's talking about he's a Kentucky fan, and I said Severe Wheeler is probably going to go to Georgia. I think he's talking about he said he might go to Kansas State, which is another school, but I heard that he was really close to going back to Georgia. Now, I don't know if that's what he does. Kansas State is another one he's looking at.
Job they did this year. There's so many schools that are going through changes, and you look at Syracuse and Jim Boeheim stepping down. We had Coach K last year, Roy Williams the year before that. The turnover in college basketball, and my gosh, Danny Hurley just won a championship at UConn. So I don't know if you guys saw Sonogo has entered his name into the NBA draft.
absolutely.
So we don't get to see the Jack linebacker playing center next year for UConn. No big surprise there, but yeah. It's so much greater because you have 13
Right.
scholarships, but in college basketball, you add one or two guys. I mean, 2019 without a Jared Harper, without and what they could provide from the outside. You just Alabama, they probably could have used another big man that could score a little more efficiently than Bediako this year.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
One of those
talking
that
about
have
Alabama
those needs filled.
Talking about Alabama for a minute. So does Nate Oates keep doing what he's doing and landing all these, 5-star kids and just reloading? What went on this year off the court? Is that going to affect him at all in recruiting and bringing kids in?
So I think that, while that whole comments were unfortunate. They were poorly timed, poorly worded, and he apologized. Anything future, certainly learn from that. And no, I don't think that affects the perception of Nate Oates. An outstanding job of getting to the standard that and where it is in terms of not only the SEC but nationally. So the combination of
fantastic job up to this
Mr. Basketballs.
Yeah.
I don't play. I'm trying to word this way where it's not misinterpreted. Those guys who, once the lights switch off, he's a guy. I think that he wants to be at Alabama, and I think Alabama wants him to be there as long as he wants to be there.
Oh, I agree with that. So Josh Hart's asking a question. I was going to bring it up on the screen for you. Do you think NIL is hurting the blue blood of college basketball?
Unlike college football, Adrian Gonzaga is where, conference and a lot of it's just how is it not? Because some of these, and let's not just stretch it out to schools. Let's just take that next tier of teams where in the past, if it was between them and they were battling the likes of Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, the tournament, people know your name. But these kids, the way that they view it, it's a year-to-year deal.
So what you were talking about with the flip quarterbacks,
or
you was saying that like with the Alabama quarterback might not want to sit another year. The NIL deals and all that in football. That's exactly what's going on in basketball as well with the buds. So used to, you could bring a kid in. If he didn't play right away, he could wait and play the next year, and that kind of stuff. But that's not the way the game is anymore. So if they don't come in and play almost immediately and star, then, they're moving on to another school.
They only have so many years. Well, now they have more years than they used to because of COVID year and all the other added years with the super senior classes we get. But they know their clock's ticking. And a lot of these guys, a lot of people don't think about it from this aspect. But think about this. If you're a guy and maybe you start somewhere or you don't play, you come in, you're highly touted, you're going to ride the bench, you're going to wait another 2 years. Or maybe you realize that your upside is not the NBA. Maybe you're not delusional and you say, you know what, I'm probably not good enough in the G League one day.
You need to cash in now.
College player.
Yeah.
I'm going to capitalize and I'm going to monetize this.
I'm going to cash in now while I'm in college.
And if I have to go to 3 different schools, start out at one, transfer as an undergrad, get my degree, and play my grad year somewhere else.
Right.
That bonus year, I get an $800,000 deal and a new Porsche to drive. Yeah, I'm in. That's cool.
Because a lot of these guys are not going to be in the NBA, and then they're not going and playing ball, after college.
Right.
I mean, you can look at a guy like Marshall Henderson. I remember reading that story. He was flamboyant, cocky. Ole Miss that, you thought unless he was playing in the Tad Pad, he was going to get a fight in every opposing arena he played in. He taunted fans, old, young, didn't matter. I remember the story. Pro ball, he ended up playing in Iraq. I mean, he was literally playing in Baghdad.
Yeah, playing in Baghdad.
How tough it is.
It's a great place to play.
To play even in the G League, the D League, the NBA, much less. There's so few spots. So how many of those guys actually want to go and subject themselves to,
Well, there's a lot fewer spots in the NBA than there is in the NFL.
There certainly is.
Correct.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those spots are taken by foreign players, kids that come overseas, whether they're from France or another country, and they played 1 year of prep here, and they're going to go first, second, 10th in the NBA. So
in the NFL, if you are free agents, you don't even have to be a seventh. You don't even have to be picked. You can be picked up and you can be have a good, healthy career in the NFL. That's not really the case. Happens too much in the NBA.
Is longer, of course, but no. So I think a lot of these kids get it. If I was coming out of high school right now, and if somebody offered me, I don't even know what the number would be, but it wouldn't take very much to make my eyes, wow. And at the time, and you guys were all 18 once.
300,000 if you were 18, 19, 20 years old, right? I mean, yeah.
With somebody you trust and even get a moderate return, and you got a nice little nest.
Yeah, I mean,
that's right.
In transfer portal, it's a new day. It's not going away. Genie's not going back in the bottle, and it's now.
Yeah, and then right now, giving you the extra COVID year, buddy. Yeah. You get that extra COVID now, and what you're talking about, you get that grad year, you go to your third school, and to cash in and maybe make that $800,000 or $1 million, your last year.
You could probably get a group of student athletes to go and say, hey, we want an extra year on top of the COVID year. We want a year because just to get reacclimated to being normal, we want a year. And right now, that might be a good time to ask because it is all in the power of the student athlete. Not saying it shouldn't, but they have all the power right now. And the NCAA, it's pretty reluctant just based on how much they spent in litigation alone last year, and then getting scolded by senators and members of Congress and the Supreme Court when they got put on the big stage. It drove Mark Emmert from that job. He said, "I'll go do something else."
So Josh is
Any kind of
asking,
enforcement or staying
are they
relevant.
making millions? He says, are they making millions in these NIL deals? And some of them, it
I
depends
would say
on
some of them.
who they are, but I mean, some of them.
Problem we have with NIL, and it's a great question. We've asked the same questions. It doesn't have to be, and a lot of that is at the discretion of the conference, and they're kind of building a bridge as they're walking across it. So, who heads up a Power 5 SEC NIL program, and off the record getting some and a lot of these conferences, the commissioners in the office and dealing with this, they don't want a lot of these deals publicized. These are private deals done by companies and individuals and whoever, acting as a representation, but those financials do not have to be publicized. So
No, yeah, a lot of it is private. Absolutely. So
there was
talking about millions,
high-profile guy that everyone watched for a year now, but I can tell you his college deal, he got $400,000, got $20,000 a month for the time that he was at his particular school playing basketball and enrolled in classes. That was publicized. The only thing that was publicized was the fast food joint, but and to have that for somebody who was close to the situation, but not there. But to answer his question, yeah, these deals, there's deals that are valued in the millions, but they don't want it out there for whatever reason.
right? So Josh is asking, he's talking about Oscar Sheboy from Kentucky. So he's saying $2 million. I've been told that this past season, Oscar made $4 million NIL deal money at Kentucky. That's what I have heard.
And
now it's not publicized
right
and
now,
all that.
had he gone to the NBA.
It's private stuff, and so yeah. I mean,
look at.
I don't think he'd be making dollars.
A school like Kentucky. He could have signed a contract that would have been valued at well over $4 million. Am I ready? Could I use another year of school? Could I use another year to my draft stock? Probably got an insurance policy, and he probably got $4 million. And a guy like Oscar Sheboy, sorry, when they played in that matchup.
All right, Landrum. I'm not sure if you're talking, but you keep going in and out. I think it's because you're on I think maybe.
Lab, who is a snore beside me, and I apologize.
Yeah. You got a black lab. What's his name? Or her name? And so, John, can you hear him?
Nope, I cannot. I am. I have been trying to piece some of these conversations together. So, it seems like we keep having technical difficulties.
If you guys are watching, I think it's because Landrum is on a phone. That's when we've had these issues with Restream. They're not really compatible too well with mobile stuff, from what I have learned doing this. Jason was on a phone sometimes. John Hammonds used to try to come on here sometimes with a phone. Mason come on here with a phone a few times.
That's right.
And and almost every time that anybody's come on here with a phone, it's went the audio has went in and out.
Yeah.
But Landrum is, joining us here. I think he's in the basement trying to chill and relax after a long day.
I just heard.
There you are.
Yeah.
I'm not on the laptop. I'm on the phone.
He's still on.
So.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I just wanted to get it out there because you're going in and out, but I think it's because you're on your phone.
We'll do it on the laptop next time. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just put out there every time since we've come on with a phone, they have had you. Yeah, he dropped. I don't know. Maybe he's
learn here.
So maybe he's switching. I'm not sure. So Landrum and John know each other, and that's part of how we get somebody like Landrum to be on. So we appreciate him being on with us.
Though we may have the same last name, we are not related.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah, they are not related. Yeah,
not related. But
yeah,
do you have the same last name?
Yeah, they do. It's John and Landrum Roberts. They're
That's
brothers.
Right. We're brothers.
I'm just messing. They're not brothers.
No. But yeah. So anyway, I mean, I don't know how much how bad he was going in and out. It seemed like you understood some of the things that he was saying more than I did, but I didn't hear a whole lot from him.
The first part of it, it didn't seem to cut out, but there towards the end, it was like cutting out long spells. It seemed.
Right.
Yeah.
And but I mean, Landrum will ultimately we'll get Landrum back.
We will
maybe not today, but we'll get him back on a future show. We have a lot of guests that are coming.
So we've had
April and May.
Excuse me, we've had Landrum on with us before, but the last time we was doing this on Podbean, and Podbean was a mobile app.
Correct.
So you could be on your phone.
Because I was actually on my phone on that episode. I was on my phone.
When we done this with Podbean and we were just doing the audio through them, it was a mobile app, and you actually had to use a phone or a tablet. That you couldn't be on a computer. Okay, when we were doing the Podbean one. So now I've switched to Restream. And Restream is the exact opposite. You have to be on a laptop or a computer or something like that, and you can't be on a phone. We've had like several different people come on and try being on a phone, and every single time the audio has went in and out on a phone.
Yeah, and I did the whole Landrum episode last time from a pizza joint.
Yep, on your phone.
I was outside walking around in the parking lot during the whole time while my family ate pizza. And then I came in and got the leftovers.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but that was, I mean, look, that was a fun show there. We talked, it was right before the Iron Bowl, right before Thanksgiving. It was the day before Thanksgiving. And
It was.
we talked about rivalry weekend and upcoming, matchup for the for championship weekend, because it had already been decided at that point. And we talked about a lot of other things back in the fall, back in November. And this time, I mean, I know we wanted to get into we were heavy into the NIL stuff again. I really and I've asked this question multiple times when we were during football season. I've asked this, and I think I've asked it maybe one or two other times since football season. But when you are Nick Saban and you have several car dealerships, is there an issue with Nick Saban and his dealership giving NIL to any of his current players, or how he recruits? And I don't know what the specifics are, so I'm not going to sit there and claim that I know what he's doing, and nor do I know the exact ruling. And that's why I'm just throwing this question out there is, Saban's the one that everybody or that people around here, in Birmingham and whatnot, know that he's got, several Mercedes dealerships across the state of Alabama and into Georgia. And my question is can his dealerships offer NIL money, or is that against any sort of rule when you have the coach himself?
I would think
involved?
that that's against some kind of rule, but there doesn't seem to be too many rules going on right now.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I was just figuring this is the Wild Wild West. So I'm just wondering.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be too many rules going on right now, to be honest.
So, but that's always been a question. And
you've asked that question on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And even
I don't know the answer to it really. Landrum might actually, if we could get him on, and
And I wanted
to
get that question in, but then again, if I asked the question and then he was cutting in and out, I didn't really want to ask it.
Yeah, not
hear the answer. So
right.
I really I do want to ask that question and get try to get somebody who knows all the ins and outs of NIL, and to know exactly what what could be done as far as NIL for coaches like that. Because again, I'm pretty certain that there are more than just Saban that owns these dealerships, or has other sort of,
or has other businesses
or business ventures, right?
Ownerships or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And so the question is with NIL, could those businesses offer NIL money? And if they could, how close does the coach involvement of those businesses before you are crossing some, imaginary, line, or what is the line of demarcation of, hey, you're going too far or whatever. And then it would be weird, but let's just say, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure out because he has his business in Georgia, could he, is there any sort of thing that could be used as far as that particular dealership that's in Atlanta or something like that could offer or be a spread or whatever to, Georgia kids? And it really wouldn't. I don't think that there's unless it's certain dealerships or whatever. I mean, I don't know exactly how everything is working. So, but with these locations, could certain locations be beneficial? Like why, if he had one in Baton Rouge, or if he had one in New Orleans.
Well, I mean, if you have one that is in a very fertile city,
right,
or area.
But I mean, does that really matter? That's what I'm really kind of wondering. Does it really matter when it comes to NIL? Because they're all owned by Saban, but they have locations in what seem to be hotbeds of recruiting areas.
For recruiting areas and
Right.
stuff. Right.
So just is there?
Yeah, I got you.
So that's yeah. So
I mean,
and I'm not saying
hopefully
that
we'll probably
there's-
get Landrum back on
any
again,
sort of-
and maybe we'll ask him those things.
What I don't want is people to misunderstand me as an Auburn fan, going and saying this stuff as, against the coach of Alabama. I'm just asking the question, what is that? Is there any sort of thing? Because I asked the question prior to NIL, to anybody that, that might have had a thought as to how that worked. I tried to ask the question before the NIL, which was, do you think, is there a line there? And it's not.
If there's not, there should be.
Well,
in my
here's
opinion,
the other thing.
That's
too.
just my
here's
opinion.
the other thing too. Okay, I got another one. Okay.
And Josh, just so you know, the reason why you could hear Landrum is because the phone deal. I just want to put it out there. What we're using to stream this just doesn't take the phones too awful well, I don't believe.
So the one thing that I was trying to also think about too was that when NIL first got started, there was a lot of different states that had different laws about it. And what if a company had multiple, locations, right? And maybe you could change the home office or wherever to be where the most favorable laws were for NIL. Now, does that company, even though it is, say, it could be, you could have again, we can use this for Nick Saban's sake. Nick Saban's dealerships, he's got 3 or 4 and, 4 or 5 or so in Alabama, but he's got some, I think, in Louisiana, and I think he's got some in Georgia. But if the laws are different between Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana on these things, could he have the home location, or I would think it would matter as far as where the address is of these businesses, but they all come back to Nick Saban at Alabama as far as what kind of laws and what kind of deals you could broker with your business. And I know as far as, a lot of businesses will say that their home office is in Rhode Island or something like that, because there are just a ton of different laws, that you could kind of skirt around because your home office is Rhode Island or whatever. And even though there's no physical address in Rhode Island, you put a P.O. box in Rhode Island, and that's the home office.
So Josh there says, if it's not illegal, it should be. He says if Saban could say, "Come play for me, and I'll give you a Ferrari," we'll say Mercedes, because that's what he's a Mercedes dealer.
It's a Mercedes.
But,
it's a Mercedes.
But anyways, he said, that's basically paying for players, pay for play, which is true. And I would think that it wouldn't matter if he's given, but.
NIL's the same thing. I mean, you're paying for play.
But that's not direct. You can't direct pay for play. The school itself cannot be involved.
Yeah, but the school's not involved.
There is
Saban.
No, he's part of the school. That's part of. You cannot directly pay for play.
Yeah, but the Mercedes is not part of the school.
But
Mercedes
the owner of the Mercedes place is.
Okay, so
that's the reason why I say it's illegal, because there is some laws about direct pay for play. So even like in football, Stoops can't be a part of it at all. I know that. Like the collectives and stuff, they can't be a part of it at all.
So
it is completely run and handled away from the school.
Not the one that's brokering the deals.
I mean,
he's not a part of it.
Right.
But he is and he's not. He is and he isn't. He's
Right.
not he's not actively a part of anything that's there. But at the same time, he is
Yeah.
because he's
I mean, I got what I get it. Could you skate around it? Is that what you're asking?
I'm
Is
just
it possible
wondering what is
to skate
and what
around it?
isn't the rule, I guess.
I'm not going to sit here and act as if every single person on the face of this earth is going to abide by those rules and everything's going to be great.
You can guarantee you can bet the house. You can go ahead and just bet the house that there's people that are breaking the rules.
Yeah, I mean, so is there people
especially when we were talking
that are skating around it and trying?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're talking about
is.
like the illegal contacting and whatnot like that. I mean, that's that's going on.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
that's going on before somebody gets put into the portal. That there's been some contact by third parties and whatnot. There's maybe not been direct contact, but there's contact. So,
oh yeah,
and but I mean, hell, half these deals are probably done through these contacts. So I mean, you just. But anyway, that was just an idea, something that was on my mind about that because of the whole pay for play, and I always just think about, man, Nick Saban owns several dealerships of these Mercedes dealerships, and just I've never heard of anybody from Alabama. I haven't heard of anybody from Alabama having a Mercedes deal, but at the same time, I haven't heard of anybody. I mean, like I said, I haven't heard anybody of the have a Mercedes deal, but I also haven't, heard that it's completely off the table.
Right. So Joshua Hart's back in here. He says he is still the head coach because if John Calipari gave, let's say, car, that's a violation and he would get in trouble. Plus, I don't like Alabama. I like Auburn if I had to choose.
Right.
He's a huge Kentucky fan.
Right.
Yeah. He helps Talking Kentucky. That's how I met Joshua.
Gotcha. Okay.
He helps them. He's I'm pretty sure he probably can say it in the chat, but I'm pretty sure he backs them and is a sponsor for Talking Kentucky.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just been one of those thoughts on my mind, during this whole the beginnings of the NIL, because I mean we're still, 1 year, right? 1 year into the whole thing, so or 2 years into it. So
2 years, I guess.
2 years
now.
into it. Yeah, 2 years. We're 2 years into it.
2 years into it now.
Yeah, but still, it's something that we. It still hasn't been, it's still in its infancy stage, really.
Yeah.
We're 2 years in, and it's really not to what it's going to ultimately be. And I was just curious.
It's getting there. It's getting there fast, though. This year, college basketball world, I can tell you that it's definitely getting there fast. I appreciate Joshua and John Hammonds being in the chat. And kind of asking questions and stuff. When you have a guest on, and Landrum's got a really great voice and knowledgeable, and he's in the middle of speaking and stuff, and sometimes I let them go on, and I'll come back to it and that kind of stuff. But yes, Joshua says he sponsors them. I thought he did. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
And never roll Tide.
Correct.
Yeah. He backs Talking Kentucky, and that's kind of how I met them, is through Coleman Scott and Talking Kentucky and stuff. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Josh. I appreciate you being on with us, man. And Landrum's a great guest. We will do our best to get him on again. John's in Birmingham, Landrum's in Birmingham. They kind of know each other a little bit. It's not like they're best friends or nothing like that, but they know each other just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Landrum had said he'd come on anytime. I mean, when you say that with somebody as busy as him, that means, he'll be on once every 2 or 3 months or,
Yeah. And I
something
mean,
like
like
that,
honestly, we could probably get him maybe after the beach volleyball thing, so
yeah,
because beach
he
volleyball will be at the beginning of May, and
yeah,
then at the
and he's
end of
like
May,
the
you'll
lead
probably get him.
commentator.
Right.
He does all this stuff. That's the collegiate beach volleyball tournament, national championships.
Right. So
is what we kind of opened the show with and was talking about. And he'll be down there the whole first week of May with them. So, that's what he'll be doing. He's also the sideline reporter for UAB football. And I think he does some stuff for UAB baseball too, doesn't he?
Well, he does it for UAB, like I think he's part of the UAB broadcast team, so he has done baseball, but he's mainly with football.
He's the sideline reporter with the broadcast team, the radio broadcast team.
Right.
I think.
And so
I'm pretty sure
he called the Auburn he called the Auburn UAB game last week as far as baseball, but I don't think he does that like on the regular as far as doing any baseball work, or he may get a baseball game or two each year. He may do a basketball game where he's got to help with the broadcaster in the basketball game or something like that. But I don't know if he actually if he's a part of the team for regular, like just on the regular for games
for
like
baseball.
that.
He is for football.
Right. Football is he and this year, because he was the sideline guy, he traveled. Whereas last year when he was doing it, he was mainly in studio. I think he was the in studio guy. So every time they kicked it to the studio, coming in and out of commercial breaks and stuff like that, he was the one that was doing that. But this time, this year, I believe he was on the sideline. So he actually did get to travel with the team on all the away games and for the bowl game and stuff like that. But as far as other sports, I think it's very minimal. I think it's there's games here or there with each of the sports, that he may be, either asked or that he's done.
But he is fully connected with the UAB program as well in Birmingham.
Right.
He's on a show called The Morning JOX. John, you know the exact times?
Yes, it is from 6 to 7 a.m. Central Time is the Morning JOX. It's right before
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, it's right before Mac and Cube go on, and that will be Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik. They've got a show from 7 to 10, and then Landrum's other show,
Landrum and Pat Smith.
Right.
Yeah.
Landrum's other show, 3-Man Front, which he does with Pat Smith, comes on from 10 to 12 p.m. on Monday through Friday.
And it's called 3-Man Front, but right now it's just two guys.
Yeah, because originally the lineup was Landrum, Cole Kubelik, and I believe Aaron Suttles was the original third man, and Pat was one of the producers, along with I believe it's John Saber in the booth. Now you have Landrum, Pat, and you basically John is more of has a lot more talking on air time, even though he is also he's in the booth. So whenever they do public appearances during the show, you're only going to get two of them, because you still got to have the guy that's running everything in the control center. And so he's he may be on air, but you're just not going to see him because he's actually in the behind the glass in the studio.
We'll get this all worked out with Landrum. Like I said, the last time we had him on, we were on something that use the app. So we probably didn't relay the message well with him when,
Well, we didn't
Um,
tell him at all not to use a mobile, like to
Yeah.
use to not use a phone. So that
Yeah.
is definitely on us. But what we will definitely say is if we are having any sort of guest, anybody that we have, we will relay that it is wise,
laptop,
and
computer.
probably
Yeah.
best practice laptop.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you've got a laptop, do it on laptop.
Right.
Let's see. Josh, probably, but I'm a fan of chaos, so I love it. Yes and no, don't stop. At least not yet.
Hey, Joshua, we appreciate that you enjoyed the show and being here, man. I appreciate it a lot. And talking Kentucky, they've been on with us. Coleman has been on with us. Both of them has been on with. Caden too has been on with us before.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate them. Actually, Coleman had said a message to me about us maybe teaming up again before too long this summer sometime. And I told him, yeah, quite a bit going on, draft and stuff this month, but maybe next month we'll try to get Coleman back on, Caden back on, and kind of team up and do something together.
Right. Yep. And we've got, I think we've got a guest on every show now, like Friday, Sunday, Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday next week, or is it Tuesday,
Yeah,
Thursday,
so-
and then the following Sunday?
Yeah. So this Sunday, we're going to be an hour later. We're going to be at 4:00 Central, 5 Eastern. But we're going to have Seattle Seahawks draft insider on with us.
Okay.
That's this Sunday. His name is Rob Staton, Staton. He will be on with us. Like I said, he is Seattle Seahawks draft insider, NFL draft insider, and Seattle picks 5th in the draft. So they are evaluating, the top 8 or 6, 8 guys. So we're going to kind of go through each guy with them on Sunday, and get their take on and who they think might be available and that kind of stuff. He's like I said, he's an insider with them, so he has all the great information and stuff. We will not go through, somebody that's probably going to be picked 20th or something with him.
Right.
Because they're mainly looking at, the top 6, 8, 10 guys.
Right. And then
Right.
and then we will, I know Thursday we will have a Green Bay Packers podcast. The X Pactor is the name of the podcast, and it is Derek Sager from the X Pactor podcast. And we will talk about Green Bay and their draft.
They're picking 15th.
Right. And he's gone through in his podcast a lot of the I guess what his thoughts are on who he thinks that will get drafted and whatnot. And we'll pick his brain with all of that. I believe I was on his show week 2 of the NFL season. I think we went over week 1. I think it was either right before the week 2 game, after the week 1 game, or it was right before week 3 after week 2. So it's a while ago that I went over there, but returning the favor, bringing them on ours. And we're going to talk about the Green Bay Packers and their draft prospects and what they could be doing, what they could be looking for within the draft. And of course, talking about this past season, talking about the whole probably everything with Aaron Rodgers.
Favre.
whatnot.
Favre. Rodgers. The Rodgers. I said Favre.
You went a long way back.
Yeah. I'm sorry. My brain just had a lapse there for just a second.
Avery.
That was 20 years ago. I'm sorry. My bad.
It was.
Something like that. 18 anyway.
It was 2007 was his last season.
Yeah. Okay.
2007.
16. Yeah.
Because they both had 16-year careers at Green Bay, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I went a little too far back there.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
But
right.
we'll talk to Derek next Thursday.
All right. So we got some exciting stuff coming up. Like I said, we'll try to do a better job at relaying, maybe not be on a mobile device. I didn't even, you know what I mean? Like it didn't even really cross my mind to tell him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was one of those. I don't think I was really thinking about it. You weren't thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. But then once he was on and I saw that he was on a phone, I was like, uh-oh, we might be in trouble. Because he's a busy guy. He come on like a minute or 2 minutes before we went on air.
Right, right.
So, Anyway, we appreciate Landrum being on with us, man. It's always cool. He's a great get, and he's very knowledgeable. And it's always fun to chat with him and to pick his mind and pick his brain, because he's into this every single day, three hours, Monday through Friday, and talking anything and everything Southern college sports, mainly, pretty much. So, all right. Our 2023 nonprofit organization that we are asking to give to this year is Home for Our Troops. I want to get to this time because last time I didn't get to this. So Home for Our Troops, they build homes for wounded and injured vets. And every dollar that you give, 90 cents of that dollar goes towards building a home for these vets and rebuilding their lives. They've been doing this for over 20 plus years. And here at Fanboys, we are asking that you give here to them, and you can do it at www.hfotusa.org. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all being with us. Joshua, appreciate you being on with us. If you're not on Prize Picks, go to Prize Picks, download, and use our code CSCast. You can double your money. If you have up to $100, $50, you get $100 to play with. $100, you get $200 to play with. It will help us out if you do that and use our code CSCast, but you will get to double your money for daily fantasy sports, over 30 plus sports to play along each and every day. I think $5 is the minimum play. And again, double your money up to $100 using our code CSCast.
Great.
All right. We appreciate you guys being on with us tonight. And we will see you an hour later than normal on Sunday at 4 Central Time. Y'all have a good night.